Jeff Elmore, our favorite family friend from Washington State, is live outside his house right now in Deer Park, Washington. This is just, I don't know, Jeff, how many miles do you think you are from our old house?
Oh, we're probably 15 miles?
Maybe 15 miles. And there's usually more in the background, mountain landscape a little bit. Can't see anything because the wildfire smoke is so thick. You are about 10 miles from the Oregon road fire, correct? And that's the one that is burning through Elk, Washington, and has already killed somebody there and then destroyed a bunch of homes. Tell us a little bit about what it's like there right now.
As far as like the smoke wise, it's not too bad. If you look behind me, you can kind of see some trees. That's about 600 yards away, and 2 days ago you could not see them. So um, we probably have a mile of visibility today. So it's not too bad, but it does. I mean, you feel it, the smoke in your throat. It kind of burns, and um, if you have any lung issues or anything like that, you probably don't want to be outside.
You're probably hearing the rooster in the background. I should say that Jeff here introduced us to our first chicken butchering session. And if that rooster doesn't shut up during my live stream, I'm coming for it next. All right, Jeff, let's take a look at. Well, I don't want to show that. Hang on. What are we looking at? I don't want to show the Cliff Mass thing yet. I want to look at this. Let's see. Emergency declaration as Spokane battles deadly wildfires. So, yes, now that we don't live there, I'll just tell everybody we used to live in Deer Park. I was a little more secretive about it because I didn't want people to come murder me while I was there. But this is a video from the Spokane Valley Fire Department, which I'll play while Jeff is explaining some stuff. They shut down I-90 for a while. I don't know if it's still shut down. Is it? It says as of Monday morning, it was closed down still, and they were travelers being redirected. I haven't gotten a good word on that, whether that was to keep the roads clear or just because they were nervous about people causing potentially another accident, and then an accident because of visibility causing another wildfire. Because if you have any sparks in these conditions, it's very, very high probability for wildfire. So what about that, Jeff? Is I-90 still closed?
Uh, yeah. So this morning, we got two fires going on here. So the Oregon fire, which is to the east behind me, and then the other one's called the Gray Fire, I think, and that's by Medical Lake and Cheney. And that one is a big fire as well. They've at times have evacuated some of the towns there. I haven't been tracking that real well because it's not a threat to us, but that is the fire that has I-90 closed. The other highway close to us is Highway 2, and that heads north and south where we're at. And at times that has been closed from the Oregon fire.
I'm showing some video from the Spokane Valley Fire Department of Elk, Washington, where the Oregon Road fire is. Again, you guys are about 10 miles from that. And that's where you go to church. What's it like? You guys were just in church yesterday, I heard, and people were getting alerts on their phones about evacuating.
Yeah, so it's so the church was about, from talking to people, we were about 2 miles from the fire, and the wind was at the beginning of the church heading kind of south and away. But it was interesting because everybody, is not the best cell coverage in that town, and so everybody was standing outside when looking at their phones. And then we went in and had church, and towards the end, a bunch of people stood up and left, and then about 2 minutes later, the alerts, everybody's phone that was on the alerts went off and announced that they had I don't know, closed another area that for evacuation, and so um, the people that were in that area dashed out, and in talking to people, they have, trailers, whatever they're going to take, all packed up, ready to go, and so they were dashing home and grabbing whatever they had prepared and leaving. The wind had changed during church, so it it
Wow.
it so that, of course, I mean, as we're sitting there, I was thinking, if I live there, you really pay attention to the wind, and because the fire moves so fast, but the wind shifts, and it might shift towards the house of the person sitting next to you, but away from
Mm-hmm.
yours. So it's it's not good no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Right. I remember every summer something like this. You're just bracing to see how close or where it's going to be. You know that there's going to be a fire somewhere. There was one summer where we almost loaded up the horses, but for the most part, we were far enough that we were on like just the edge of evacuations or just barely in a sort of pre-evacuation zone. Are you all in an evacuation zone? Are you concerned at all? Have you thought about what you're going to do? You've got a lot of stuff there. I mean, you have chickens, obviously, but you've got a whole you've got kids, you've got a whole house full of stuff. And I don't know if you've thought about any of this yet.
Yeah, well, Friday when the fire started, a few hours after it started, um, there was such a huge plume, and the air was clear on Friday, so it looked like it was really close. But shortly after it started, we had a call from a friend that said there was a brush fire a couple miles from us, and if the wind switched, then we were going to have to be evacuated. So, um, fortunately, they got that fire out, and it didn't amount to anything. Um, but so we did pack, and um, the minimum amount of stuff that we would want to take, and when you have a little more warning, then you think like, okay, we're going to hook up the trailer and really load up a lot of stuff. But when you have very little warning, you just throw some clothes in the bag and some, you know, papers or whatever is important. And it's surprisingly little when you think like you could be in a life-threatening situation. What you decide to grab. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that fire was put out. So, but we kept everything packed. I mean, behind me is a canola field, and it is very dry. They let it dry out before they harvest, so it would not take much to have this field just blow up on us. So, just living in that situation, um, this time of
Yeah.
year, you're always aware that a fire would, you have to leave quickly if it gets going.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people know I used to work for the Washington Department of Natural Resources, and I probably would be at one of these fires shooting video of it, honestly, if I was still working there. I'm not working there because they fired me on my podcast. But I've noticed that there's been some, at least from talking to you and a couple other people, there's been some interest in what caused these fires, but not a whole lot of information about it. I know from my own sources that the one that's closer to Cheney, closer to 90, is a power line fire, and then likely the one you guys are closer to is either power line or a backyard campfire. I'm curious what people are talking about there and what you've heard as folks have been looking for, reasons. I guess at the end of the day, maybe, as the fire is burning, it doesn't really matter because it's just at this point trying to keep people safe and keep houses from burning down, and you try to get to the bottom of it later. But a lot of wildfires get politicized in this day and age, and then honestly, knowing that the Commissioner of Public Lands, Hillary Franz, who is the wildfire fighting chief essentially for the state, is running for governor, it adds a whole nother level of I think I don't want to call it like communication curating, but it really is. I mean, they're always trying to protect the person at the top to make sure that whatever comes out information wise, I know this for a fact because I used to work at this particular department, but I was, I know what communications is. I used to work in television too. I know what happens behind the scenes. So especially if you have somebody who's running for governor that's behind the wildfire fighting efforts right now, every little bit of information is going to be curated in a way that's going to make sure that person doesn't look bad. So just curious what people are saying. I mean, they feel like they're getting information. Do you feel like you're getting information that you need? Has there been a lot of like politicking around the issue? How is the media handling it? Let's talk a little bit about
that. They do have a few, depending on how the fire is acting, I guess to say. They have updates. I think there's 2 or 3 that are scheduled, and then they fill in as the fire moves. I mean, honestly, the people that I know in the fire zone, they're so immersed in how do I get out of here? Which way do I go? What do I take? We have friends that have lost not their house, but everything around it, their outbuildings and shop and everything. And it's kind of surprising hearing some of the stories, what burned and what didn't. And, we have so far 3 families at our church that lost their homes. So I think from the people I've talked to, it's more just trying to be aware of where the fire is in proximity to where they live or work, and what do we do, and the people that have lost their homes and or outbuildings or whatever on their homes. They are trying to wrap their head around, okay, now what, we contact the insurance company, when can we get in and really see the damage, because many of them are not supposed to go into their homes in the evacuation areas, so they don't really know the extent of the damage. So but I haven't heard, I read on one, some of the comments on after one of the updates on the fire. People were asking what the source is, and there was a somebody that said they were official fire whatever representative, and in the comments said, please don't try to come up with a cause. Let the official word come out first. We don't want to misinform people on what's happened or what's happening. So
my take on whatever it is that an official says we shouldn't speculate about is that is kind of a counter reaction to people not trusting the official statement and trying to figure out for themselves what's going on, because that's the whole point. That's why they're speculating. To the degree that there's a higher level of speculation, the official should probably look at that and say, maybe it's because people don't trust us. I don't know. And in fires in today's day and age there are, especially right now, there are very few topics that get more politicized than a wildfire, because it either goes down the climate change route, just showing, I'll show you this in a second, because it was really interesting. Atmospheric sciences professor. Familiar with him, Jeff?
Oh yes, you cut out a little bit. So.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Cliff Matt,
we're both having.
You're talking.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I had him on not too long ago, but he was talking about Maui, and it had nothing to do with climate change, like zero. That's what he said about Maui. But I think maybe people are looked at as heartless or something, and so they don't want to speak up, or there's just a lot of pressure in the science world. But yeah, it's just, I think the officials still miss, and they look at it, people like they're just crazy for thinking that it could be A, B, or C, when the officials go, no, it's D, it's D. It's like, well, you guys, and I talk to doctors and scientists and politicians and whatever. So I'm talking about all fields. The official statement is not really often the most, I guess, trusted by people at this point. So wildfires are no different. It sounds like it's probably not going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I think with anything, especially with what we've learned in the last few years, is you got to critical think, and it's what you hear isn't always the best option, or your what you would think is truthful. But yeah, as far as here, I mean, I don't watch a lot of news, anyways, local news, so I don't know if there's been. I haven't heard the climate change push or anything like that yet. At this fire, I have at other fires, but they did declare a state of emergency, which maybe that you might know avails them more resources than our local. I don't know, but I've heard that. I read that I think there's 400 firefighters on the Oregon fire, and I know, depending on the smoke, at times they've not been able to use any air support with the helicopters, or so.
This is over on my locals, AllisonMorrow.locals.com. Consider joining my editorial board. You can put questions in ahead of time for interviews, and for people like Jeff or all other censored folks. Saltwater pearls. I lost it with my parents last night because they were bemoaning the fires in British Columbia and complaining about the damn Americans and their cars. Okay, Jeff, anything else you'd like to add for people about what it's like there, or I don't know, you just want to get off your chest about farming? This is probably is this your first really bad wildfire season? You used to live in Seattle. Is this your first really bad wildfire season on the eastern side of the state where you have like an actual farm now that you have to, it's not just like loading up the people and taking them. Now you have to worry about other stuff.
Yeah, I grew up in a setting like this, except it was irrigated land. There's not irrigated land around us, so with irrigated land, a fire like this would probably not spread into the farming areas because there's so much water sprinkles every day, with the sprinklers. But here you're kind of at the mercy of the wind and the weather. We might get a little bit of rain tonight, which sounds good, but with that rain there may be some lightning, which then may start a fire somewhere else, so it's definitely something you kind of change your mind about, and try to wrap your head around the difference of in Seattle. It was rarely dry enough that we would have a threat, but here it's different. It's real, and people have plans to get their animals out, and where they go, and then there's also the community reaches out. There's just driving to Elk yesterday. There's a station where if you need help to get your animals out, there was people with horse trailers and such just parked in a big parking lot with a big sign up. If you need help to evacuate, you just stop in and they'll go in and help get your animals out or whatever you need. So it is interesting. Cool. Stuff I've never seen before.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate it. Don't forget, everybody, if you want to support my work too, you can go to AllisonWinePromo.com. Some amazing Malbecs from Argentina, 50% off the wine and 50% off shipping. They are great gifts for people if you have wine drinkers in your life and you want to give them wine with a cause. This is a great one. They're all extreme altitude, one from almost 9,000 feet, one from the oldest vineyard in Argentina, and one from the third highest vineyard in the world. So go check them out, AllisonWinePromo.com. It's a great way to support my work. If you're already a wine drinker, you have no excuse. And you can go to TwinEngineCoffee.com/Allison, get some USDA certified organic. We have light roast, dark roast. It's great coffee. I had the espresso this morning with a little bit of raw cocoa powder, vanilla, and raw milk. I call it my vanilla amaretto latte. It's very good. So go check them out. They also have tea. If you like tea, Katura tea is the tea made from the fruit around the coffee bean. So all great ways. And their affiliate links, cod liver oil, hydroponic grow system, all kinds of affiliate links in the description and the comments for you to support if you would like to. Jeff, final word on any of this, and we'll go. Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to get off your chest?
Um,
I guess I could ask this. I mean, I know we're talking about wildfire, but there are a lot of people who do homesteading that follow me, and you just slaughtered how many chickens in 2 days?
we did 60.
60 chickens in 2 days.
So 30 a day.
30 a day. And what would you say, like, because we were there the first time you ever, and people who go watch that video on our other channel, the Off Kurdish Living channel, you've probably learned a lot since that first butchering session. Is there any like advice you'd like to give people about homegrown chickens, and especially if you do meat chickens?
When you grow it, for some reason, it does taste better.
You're so hungry.
Yeah.
Because you were working so hard.
So we so this was our second year, and you're learning like what pieces of equipment that would make it go quicker, because when you're out there doing it, you want it to be done as quick as possible. This year we added what's called a scalder, which keeps water hot. We, rather than use a propane powered where it's hard to keep the temperature where you need it, it would get too hot and then too cold and too hot and too cold, so you spend a lot of time fiddling with that. So we had an electric one, which that saved a lot of time, so we were able to do in 1 day what we did in 2 days last year. So but if you're gonna start with a small scale like we did of the first year, 25 in our first batch, I wouldn't go out and invest in $1,000 or $2,000 worth of equipment when you're not sure you're ever going to do it again.
Yeah, that's a lesson that we're learning swiftly on our new property. Is you really have to do a lot of this stuff for a long time to make your money back. You're like, oh, I'm going to save so much money on groceries. And then like $5,000 later, you're like, wait a second, how many grocery store trips would I have had to
save $1,000?
Yeah. So, but it is probably healthier. It is probably healthier. So maybe you're saving on medical bills. Okay. All right, Jeff. Well, thanks so much. Thanks everybody for watching. I guess, Jeff, maybe if there's any other stuff that comes up in the news with the fires, you come back on, and I don't know, maybe we'll just make Jeff our Washington State reporter since I'm not there anymore. You guys have a great day. We'll see you next time.